morning and welcome to the Sunday broadcast of White Mountain here in Arizona, and also welcome to those of you who are online. This morning I'm going to start the Sunday talk with a quote from a book called Heart, and it's what we call an Agni Yoga book. It's from one of the series of books of Agni Yoga. And this is what it says. It's paragraph 79. Love for the endlessness of labor is in itself an initiation of considerable degree. It prepares you for the conquest of time. Being in a condition where you have conquered time guarantees you a place in the subtle world, where work is an unavoidable condition, just as it is in the body. A complaint about having to work can only come from the slave of the body. So today I'm talking about leadership and labor in the esoteric sense. And basically, I'm going to be focusing on not only labor, but also how to conquer time. It's a very condensed presentation. It's going to require some concentration, and I suggest that once the lecture is uploaded to YouTube, to listen to it and take notes. Listen to it 2 or 3 times and take notes if you're so inclined. It's very powerful. It's very important, especially to students on the path of Agni Yoga and are in practice of spiritual disciplines. So, labor. Labor is a work carried out on yourself to shape yourself, to transform yourself, and also to transcend yourself. And it also means to closely watch your thoughts, emotions, words, and actions. Never get tired of labor, even in your old age. I have to smile at that because now that I'm old, and I remember many, many years ago, back in the day, when my teacher said, Agni Yogis never retire. And now I understand why. To retire is to waste your time. And the word time is a real important component of today's lecture, because as spiritual students, we want to conquer time. So if we're going to retire from life, time becomes a burden. It becomes heavy on our shoulders. And it becomes non-creative. So here we are now talking about not retirement, but working and serving and laboring, no matter what age we are, whether we're young or old. To labor means initially to shape yourself, to shape ourselves, to transform who we are, and in that process of transformation, to transcend what we transformed into. And during this whole process of shaping ourselves, transforming ourselves, transcending ourselves, we want to closely watch our thoughts, closely watch our emotions, closely watch our words and actions, so we will never get tired of labor, even in old age. If you work on one side of yourself, now you're going to work on the other side of yourself. When you learn the secret of labor, now you are an initiate of a high degree. But do not forget that labor is related to your spiritual development. So those who work on themselves love labor. They are always unsatisfied with what they are, and they are always joyful in their labor. This is the spiritual path. It's so different from the life of the average person, from living the mundane life. This is why those of us who have responded to a call and are drawn to this spiritual path have the joy of life, even to the very last breath. We have the joy of life because we love labor and we are unsatisfied. We are unsatisfied with who we are in the moment. We can do any kind of labor and make it a means to expand our consciousness. In the process of expanding our consciousness, we are building higher and higher bodies for our spirit. Anytime we begin to be proud of ourselves, we fail in our spiritual progress. Spiritual development is achieved when you do not have expectations from your labor. It's an important point to make. Spiritual achievement occurs when you do not have expectations from your labor. When you work on yourself, your thought is to improve yourself in order to help others. Now, when you are satisfied with yourself and you feel happy, you create a false unity within yourself. There is no improvement except when there is duality in you. Now that may be a surprise, but I'm talking about labor in the esoteric sense. It's the title of today's presentation. So what is duality? Duality means dissatisfaction. There is no improvement except when there is duality in you, when there is dissatisfaction in you. Discipleship is a continuous process of striving toward your vision. Labor means to make every kind of effort to bring out the latent beauty and freedom and joy from within yourself. In other words, labor is to contact your true self. Labor leads you to the level where you conquer time. Labor leads you to the level where you conquer time. This means, now pay attention, this means that you can do in 1 hour what you used to be able to do in 1 day. So in other words, labor, true labor, gradually increases your speed. So for example, let us say that a few years ago, as a musician, you were preparing yourself to give performances on the violin. It would take you weeks of practice. This is a bit of a personal story, and I know some of you know that. But we grab from our experiences. So, let's say a few years ago you were a musician and you were preparing yourself to give performances on the violin. It would take you weeks of practice and then more weeks to refine the compositions that you were going to perform. It took a lot of time and discipline to make yourself ready to perform in front of the audience. But the labor, the effort, and the discipline that you put into the weeks of practice gradually released more of your talent, more potential, more abilities, making your efforts faster. And soon you could give performances with just a few hours of preparation. So through practice, through working on ourselves, we eliminate obstacles that exist within us. Such as, just think about this, such as the lack of experience. Practice removes the lack of experience. Labor removes the lack of experience. Concentration and patience are also part of labor. As you conquer these things, what's so interesting is that your speed increases. You eliminate the obstacles that are in you, and you learn how to concentrate, and you develop your patience. And as you conquer these things, you increase your speed. So patience. Patience is a vital quality when you're working on yourself. It is a special wisdom that makes you endure and continue until you attain the final victory of the self. Now, those who are not ready for the coming years are those who do not have the patience to learn, to discipline, to create, to serve, to keep silent, and to give enough time for their talents to sprout, their fiery spirit to sprout. The great ones avoid people who lack patience, because impatient people do not allow things to come to a completion, and they neglect the law of cycles. Patience gives you stability. Just think about this. Patience gives you stability. The great ones watch how you use patience in your field of labor, your field of service. Unless you conquer time, you cannot enter into the subtle worlds consciously. Unless you conquer time, you cannot enter into the subtle worlds consciously. So the conquest of time means increasing speed, the ability to do things, creativity, freedom from limitation, and self-forgetfulness. This is what the conquest of time means. Once you demonstrate these qualities, you find yourself in the subtle worlds consciously. Now, I said this was condensed. You really have to think about this. So here's a hint. In the subtle worlds, you do not have your physical body. You are not limited by the time concept. You do not need to sleep and rest. And you are in continuous labor. Now, when I talk about the subtle worlds, I'm not talking about the astral plane. Maybe the second and first levels of the astral plane, but I'm talking specifically now about the fiery world, which is part of the subtle worlds, the fiery world, which is part of the higher mind and the world of intuition. We are going to increase our speed through labor and increase the result of Increasing our speed through labor means we are increasing the speed of our thinking, our actions, and our decisions. If we are decisive, we conquer a certain period of time. We do not lose time by saying this or that. We act on our fast but correct decisions. And our decision will not be the result of mental calculation, but the result of our intuition. My observations have showed me how people wander between many crossroads, and in so doing, they lose time. They have many expressions, which are the symbols of the lack of decisiveness. For example, they'll say, well, maybe, or perhaps. On the other hand, and the one which drives me crazy, which is not driving me crazy, it is, I have to think about it. I have to think about it. Or it seems, and so forth. The light of the intuition does not need such expressions because it is decisive. The light of intuition is decisive. I think that we must always think about how we can conquer time through continuity of consciousness, through unceasing labor, through enlightenment, through self-forgetfulness, harmlessness, and of course right speech. Now those who are not in harmony with their true self are always lost on their path. Those who are harmful always face obstacles on their path. Those who do not exercise right speech are always stuck in the mind of their karma. Stuck in the mind of their karma. Everything in the path of perfection is related not to pleasing others, but to speed. Speed's purpose is to annihilate itself, thus proving that there is no time when the speeding one enters the sphere of omniscience. On the thread of speed you see forms and colors and sound and heat and rays. As speed increases, it turns into light, and eventually speed becomes space, and you have conquered time. I was trying to think how to explain this, and I still haven't created a good explanation, but this is what I've come up with so far. Imagine that you're sitting in your car, you're driving your car, or you might be in the passenger side, it doesn't make any difference. And you're starting to move forward. Now you're out in open space. So there's no other cars around you. That's really important. And you start speeding up. And the speed is increasing until you are really moving faster and faster and faster and faster. So pretty soon, what you saw, the tree, the flower, the grass, the road, the dirt, everything blurs until you reach a point where everything melds into light. Now, I know this happens, not because I've driven a car that fast, but a friend of mine who is a photographer had time-lapse photography, and he took a van that he did that with, and I don't know the specifics of how he did it, but the end result was all you could see was just a faint outline or faint image of the van, and the rest was light. The speed of light. So on the thread of speed, you see forms and colors and sound and heat and rays. And eventually, speed becomes space. Now listen to this carefully, for this is an esoteric truth. The materialization of space produces time. The materialization of space produces time. The spiritualization of matter, annihilates time. So the materialization of space produces time, and the spiritualization of matter annihilates time. Speed is the enemy of time. Think about this. Speed is the enemy of time and the enemy of matter. So victory in the future depends upon speed. The great ones send a call. We respond after maybe 200 years, or we respond in 3 years, or maybe we respond in 24 hours, and some will respond immediately. These are the speeds of responses. You can have a higher sensitivity if you are disciplined in conquering time and matter through labor. In the subtle worlds, the verse that I read in the beginning said, in the subtle worlds, labor is an absolute condition. You are closer to the central magnet. You are in continuous motion. You accustom yourself to labor. The verse also stated, a complaint against labor can only come from the slaves of the body, unquote. So each complaint is a weakening step. Each complaint indicates a spirit of failure, withdrawal from the path of striving and labor. Each complaint indicates the disappearance of vision and future. In the teaching, we are told about petty thoughts which enter into the structure of great plans and decisions and destroy them. One must refuse to listen to petty thoughts about their plans and decisions, and they must isolate themselves from people and form their old ways of thinking until the plan is put into action. Together with such action, we must be careful that petty thoughts are hidden in the layers of our mind, are not revealed. So watch out for petty thoughts and also the petty thoughts of others. Many great decisions were destroyed by a word or a gesture carrying a petty thought. So petty thoughts are those thoughts that carry with them a disturbing force. They are rejecting by nature. These are petty thoughts. They suggest that the plan is worthless and useless. Petty thoughts indicate failure. They ridicule your capacity and your efficiency. They evoke memories of failure from your mind. They project an image of hopelessness and retard and destroy your creative energy. The ancients used to keep people with petty thoughts away especially during great decisions and plans, and surround themselves with those who had an intuitive grasp of the plan and were positively ready to actualize it despite all difficulties. Through such fortification of the minds of co-workers, they protected themselves from petty thoughts. Petty thoughts are especially powerful when a leader is in a moment of extreme tension or is crossing a bridge in labor. The leader sees in the accumulation of it. This is very interesting to think about, and I know it'll take you some time to process it, but you'll get it. The leader sees in the accumulation of antagonistic forces the sign of victory. This is mostly a very intuitive awareness in front of accumulating danger. A petty thought released at such a moment of extreme tension destroys the opportunity of the victory. And the tension destroys so much that the warrior puts their arms down at the moment when victory is going to destroy the accumulated opposition. We are repeatedly told not to give up when we feel we have failed, but to feel that what we do is worthy. It is a service for the human cause. It is an act of gratitude to great ones and a part of the plan. Victory is gained at the crescent of the rising wave. One of the techniques of great spiritual warriors is to evoke the accumulation of all opposing forces. Each accumulation evokes greater preparation and strength within the warrior, bringing them closer to the moment of victory. Victory is achieved by the total destruction of dark forces. The spiritual warrior evokes total accumulation and prepares to meet it at the crescendo of the wave. Do you understand? You don't know yet. Okay. Well, just think about it. Think about it. And like I said, when this presentation goes up on the YouTube, listen to it a couple of times and it'll all come together for you. I just don't have time to tear it all apart. We could have a seminar on this, actually. So in a moment of extreme watchfulness and tension, the warrior of spirit must surround him or herself only with those who are armed with a vision of victory and of the future. When the great ones speak about labor, they also emphasize that labor cannot be carried on to its destination if the spirit of a warrior is not present in it. Spiritual labor is a continuous striving to meet the demands of the call of the Spirit. People justify themselves. If they have plans and great visions, but they don't have the ways and means to meet them, if their conditions will not allow them to engage in the labor to actualize their vision, then it's going to be better to worry about their daily bread rather than manifesting their vision. Again, this is like a seed thought for you to really think about it, because people talk to me about how they have these great ideas that they want to be this, they want to be that, they want to do this, they want to do that, but the condition is not there. Meanwhile, they don't have a job, they can't support themselves, they can't support their family, they're behind on their rent, the house goes into foreclosure because they're thinking about what they need to manifest that vision. So first of all, we must know that the plan and the vision, it is the plan and the vision that prepares the ways and means for their actualization by creating the right conditions. I'm going to repeat this. The plan and vision, it is the plan and the vision that prepare the ways and means for their actualization, which then creates the condition. All conditions and facilities were created not by the conditions, not by walking into the house already completed, but the house that was incomplete, that now the plan and the vision is going to construct. Plans and visions create like a polarity in matter, in the physical, emotional, and mental spheres. And this polarity accumulates all the personalities and elements necessary for the manifestation of your plan and the vision. Things start moving by an inner force, an inner organized force which provides the vehicles for the manifestation of the plan. Secondly, those who run after their daily bread and forget about the kingdom of heaven not only lose their daily bread, but also the kingdom of heaven. The depression and the catastrophic condition of the economy all over the world are clear indications that humanity was running after their daily bread and neglecting the call of the kingdom of heaven. So let me close with this. Daily life will eventually evaporate if it is not reinforced by the values of the future, the virtues of the soul, by the longing of the spirit, and especially if it does not respond to the call for improvement and perfection.